I guess the question here would be like, why put this project out into the world? What is innately interesting about it? It's an environment that I've built for building visual modules using web technologies like WebGL or P5, 3JS, and then composing those into reactive audiovisual scenes. It allows people to focus on the fun stuff with a lot of the complex middleware being handled natively. I've been using the software to perform at demos and exhibitions and live events for the past few years. As the development phase now reaches its half-life, I'm deciding to open source the project with the hopes that people can jump in and have a play around and even contribute to it. So I'm going to break down a basic example of how this works from the user's perspective, and then maybe another time I will talk about how this all works under the hood, but for today, just showing how it feels for the user. Inside the repository, there is a folder specifically for visual modules. You can create a file and put together anything you like. It could be a basic HTML shape or a complex WebGL point cloud instance. It really doesn't matter as long as it's supported on the web. So once you've had a play around and you're happy with the module, you'll want to add in some specific methods that enact some sort of visual change. It could be changing anything simply from the color, a size, or even complex animations. These methods sit within the same file, and there's also an object where you can specify customizable properties that you might want to pass from your software later on. Once that class is ready, you can run the software and it will open two windows. The composer is where we're going to build up our audio-visual scene. In this composer window, we can load any variation of modules that we've coded. You can see it pulls in all the files from the modules folder, and then you can even preview them on the right-hand side. So the software reacts to incoming signals. Right now it supports MIDI and OSC. If I switch over to the Ableton session, we can add a note for C on octave 0. This is already mapped to channel 1 in the New World software. Next, in the composer, we can append a channel to our module. You'll see here that it shows channel 1 is referencing C0. We click on that channel in the module and it'll pull up this window. Anything that we configure in this little window is what's going to take place when the software detects that C0 has been triggered. So we'll add our method from earlier on, and now we can bring it all together. If I switch back over to Ableton and press play, we can see it's playing the note C0, and that for every instance of our MIDI note, the method that we selected is triggering. So that is it. That is the base concept, and where we go from here is where it starts to get really interesting, because now we can combine any variation of modules and methods and signals, and it's a great way of combining web technologies without the downsides of cross-pollination. As you start to scale up the scene, you begin to see the simplicity of how this actually works together. I mean, all that's happening here is the composer is listening to some external triggers and then passing down a set of rules. The key part here is because it's just interacting with individual opinionated class files, those files serve as their own ecosystem, and you can go quite silly with it. I mean, there's been many times where I've had like a WebGL instance rendering point cloud data, and there's like a P5 overlay and a D3 chart pulling in like an API reference or something, and it all works. It's interesting because this is the beauty of the project for me. It allows you to combine these different libraries in not just a safe way, but in a way that promotes sort of flexibility and creativity over time. Yeah, in terms of incoming signal, people have asked if it will support, for example, serial data from an ESP32 or a Raspberry Pi or something like this, and I mean, like, I don't see why not. It could pull in data from a web server, an API. Like, this is the beauty of open source for me, is that you can combine these different technologies and you can have a play around and sort of mold the code into your own specific use case. The software handles the input and then the user controls the output. I think one of the present challenges for artists is there's a lot of software that exists out there, but unfortunately a lot of it is closed source. So in order to do anything outside the box, you end up dependent on this sort of flexibility threshold. You might be later dependent on third-party resources, and you could probably just do with customizing stuff on your own. I think being able to jump into a project and then do whatever you want for your own specific use case is is very important and very special for artists. In the repository, I'm hoping to put together a few resources on how to get up and running, how to build a module, how to contribute to it, and we'll go from there. So yeah, this video is part of an ongoing series. I'll be going into detail on how modules are created, how the project works under the hood, and should be fun. This has been a lot of fun for me. It's been a learning experience. There's a learning methodology developed by Richard Feynman where being able to teach or describe something actively reinforces your understanding in it. And for me, even just open sourcing the project, talking about it in this way has been a great source of momentum.